Very good afternoon. This is Ashwin Khanna here. I am heading the Department of Psychology at Sree Saraswathi Thyagaraja College, Pollachi. Today we are here to discuss about one of the interesting topics in the field of psychology. Of course, I am going to take a particular topic in the subject Introduction to Psychology, and the topic for today's discussion is learning. So whenever we speak about learning, it involves all the concepts that we have experienced in our life right from our birth to death. So before we discuss much about learning, I would like to explain about the simplest meaning of psychology. Psychology can be explained as the scientific study of behavior and cognitive processes. So when we speak about behavior, it includes all our physical and all our psychomotor activities. So whenever we speak about the activity of a person, whatever we do, say for example, we may read a book, we may go for a walk, all these comes under activity. And when we speak about all the activities, 95% of all the activities which we do in our life are all completely learned. Learned in the sense we have been taught to do this particular activity. Only 5% of the activities are completely based on reflex. Say for example, our salivation and winking of an eye and the knee jerk, everything happens to be happening automatically within our body. Apart from that, 95% of all the activities are completely learned. So that much importance we give to the learning in our day-to-day life. So speaking about learning, a simplest and there is only one accepted definition of learning all over the world. That is nothing but learning can be defined as the relative permanent change in the behavior of an individual that can occur as a result of practice or experience. There are other explanations also for the concept of learning in psychology, but the only accepted and most known famous definition of learning is the one which I told you before. So when we see this definition, basically we have three main components in this definition. First one is relative permanent change. So when we speak about relative permanent change means before learning to walk, we may only crawl, and before learning to run, we may only walk. So crawling to walking and walking to running, all these happens as a relative permanent change in the day-to-day life of an individual. Next, we speak once again about the behavior of an individual. When we happen to see this permanent change in any individual's behavior, that is the key component of learning. And third aspect from the definition, how this learning happens. This learning happens as a result of practice or experience. So, let's once again take the example of walking. A person so far will be crawling as a baby, and slowly the person will learn to walk. So when the person is transforming from crawling to walking, that is a relative permanent change happening in the behavior of a person, and this particular change happens only as a result of practice or experience. Either the parents of the child will be making the child to make use of the walking aid, or they will motivate the child to walk. So based on that, this particular practice or experience happens, and that forms the crux part of learning. So speaking about learning, there are many theories related to learning in the field of psychology, but predominantly we speak about two main theories of learning, or we can even call it as two main types of learning or two main forms of learning. So they are nothing but cognitive learning and associative learning. So first I will explain the subcomponents, then I will explain everything in detail. So speaking about cognitive learning, this cognitive learning has got three subtypes or three subparts within it. One is insight learning. It is given by a person called as Kohler. Then we have observational learning. It is explained by a person called as Bandura. And latent learning, it is given by a person called as Tolman. Similarly, we have the component of associative learning. This particular theory of learning also has two main components or two main subtypes. One is called as classical conditioning, and second one is called as operant conditioning. This classical conditioning is given by a Russian physiologist, Ivan Pavlov, and operant conditioning is given by an American psychologist, B.F. Skinner. So before we explain in detail, I just wanted you all to have a very quick understanding about a key concept, which you can see here. This is a did you know concept. Here I have written as learning, then I have written about memory, and I have written about forgetting. Here, these three are interconnected. In what way means, whatever we learn in our day-to-day life, that is stored in our memory, and whatever we store in our memory is subject to forgetting. And when we tend to forget something, once again we try to learn or read the same thing, so once again it leads to learning. So the concept of learning, memory and forgetting are all interconnected in such a way that learning leads to memory, memory may lead to forgetting, and forgetting may lead to proper relearning. So this is the concept under the did you know factor that I wanted to tell you. Now, we will once again focus on the key main components of learning, which is cognitive learning and associative learning. Speaking on cognitive learning, here the person makes use of only his cognitive processes. Cognition in psychology means all the higher mental processes such as planning, decision making, thinking, memory, creativity. Everything happens to be the point of cognitive learning. On the other hand, associative learning. In this particular point, the learning happens by key association between two concepts. For this associative learning, I can give you a simple explanation or a very good example. For example, if we are students in a school level or a college level, by around 12:15 or 12:30, we will immediately we will have a long bell. Once on hearing the long bell, our hands will rush away to take the lunch box. The main reason is because we are highly associated or conditioned in such a way that whenever there's a lunch bell ringing, our mind automatically thinks only about lunch and we will rush only to take our lunch box. Similarly, in every school or in most of the schools, maybe we might have seen in some of the films also, at around 3:30 or 3:45, when the long bell rings or when the peon of the school rings the long bell, all the children will run out from the class and they will run towards the gate of the school. This process happens immediately after hearing the bell sound. So this is a very simple example to explain associative learning. Here, what we have associated now, our tendency to have lunch and the bell sound, and our tendency to leave the school and the bell sound we have associated. So that is the explanation of associative learning. Now, under cognitive learning, as we already saw, we have three main subcomponents. One is insight learning, then second one is observation learning, and latent learning. In today's session, we will discuss only about insight learning and observation learning in detail. So, speaking about insight learning, from the name you can say, what do you mean by insight? Insight is nothing but sudden appearance of solution to any problem a person encounters in his life. For this, a key example can be the concept of Archimedes principle. Most of you will be knowing how Archimedes principle was born. It all happened all of a sudden, and because of that, he made a famous term called, he shouted a famous term called as Eureka. So, insight learning is nothing but solution for any problem or solution for under this type of learning happens all of a sudden due to our insight. And to explain this insight learning further, Kohler designed a very simple experiment by making use of a chimpanzee. He made use of this chimpanzee and he even named the chimpanzee as Sultan. So, let's address the chimpanzee as Sultan from now. So, what the Sultan did was, Kohler made the Sultan to stay in a cage, and some 2 or 3 feet away from the cage, he kept a bunch of bananas. And so, Kohler also gave Sultan 2 small sticks. So, obviously the Sultan was very much hungry and it wanted to grab the banana somehow. First, it made use of its own hands to take the bananas, but it was not able to reach. Then it made use of its own legs, but once again it was not able to reach the bananas. Then it took the 2 sticks and using each hand separately, it also made use of the stick to reach the banana. Even at that particular point of time, the Sultan was not able to reach the banana. So it got really disappointed, and remember, it is already hungry. And now it got very much disappointed, and Sultan thought that, okay, today I'm not going to get the bunch of bananas because it is completely out of my reach. So now what Sultan happened to do is, like, it was having the 2 sticks in its own hand. So it started to play with the 2 sticks. So while playing, it accidentally found that both the sticks can be connected. So it immediately connected both the sticks, and now when we connect 2 sticks together, it will be converted into a longer stick. So, using this longer stick, the Sultan has taken its stick and it has tried to reach the banana now. Now, it was able to reach the bunch of bananas. So, immediately it grabbed and it obviously ate all the bananas. So, through this experiment, what Kohler was trying to prove that even though the Sultan was very much hungry, initially he did not have any plan on how to get the bunch of bananas, which was around 3 to 4 feet away from its control. Then it had even 2 small sticks, but it made use of it earlier in a different manner. Later, it associated both the sticks, and because of that, it was very easily able to reach the bananas, which was on the other side of the cage. This is the concept of insight learning. Then, subsequently, we will discuss about observation learning also. This observation learning is also known by the term social learning or modeling. This particular observation learning was given by a person called as Albert Bandura. Observation learning is nothing but Learning here happens when an individual is observing the other person and when he considers other person as his role model. This observational learning happens in every one of our life. When you take any child for that matter, if it is a boy child, and in the childhood, the boy child will see its own father maybe having a shave of the beard. So by the time what the child also will do, it will also take a particular shaving cream and it will try to shave the same. Similarly, when the mother tries to cook some chapati at kitchen, the girl child will go to the kitchen and it will see the mother cooking, and it will also try to cook some particular dishes. That is the concept under observation learning. So even to prove observation learning, Bandura made a very simple experiment, and he is one of the few psychologists who made use of the small babies or some babies who are in the early childhood for his own experiments. Because apart from Bandura, all other psychologists made use of only the animals, say for example chimpanzee or rat or pigeons. So speaking about observation learning, what Bandura did is like he took a small child, maybe around 3 or 4 years of age. This small child was made to sit in a room, and the child was shown a particular video. In that particular video, another 3 to 4 year old child is seen to be sitting near a 5-foot big balloon doll. And in that particular video, that particular child was seen hitting the doll like anything. It was hitting and smashing the doll here and there. And that was the video shown to the our own 5-year-old baby, which Bandura has in the room. And after showing this video, in the next room, the child was made to sit separately along with a similar 5-footed balloon doll. So now also what the particular baby did is like, it actually saw the video, and the same behavior the baby replicated in the next room also. So basically, by this experiment, what Bandura is trying to tell is like, observation learning happens by observing the behavior of a model, then retaining the behavior of the model in the memory of a person, and reproducing the behavior whenever there is a need happening. So this is a concept under observation learning, which is given by Albert Bandura. In our next session, we will discuss about other forms of learning. Thank you.